Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What is up? Dave, Duncan and Kyle back from Metal Epidemic for another album review, and for this review Duncan, Kyle and I have been checking out the new album from Houston, Texas death metal band Malignant Altar.
I thought you just called them my Houston. That's how heavy they are, they're my Houston.
The band's new album, Realms of Exquisite Morbidity, will be released on December 10th via Dark Descent Records. So, these guys are about to drop their debut album after releasing a couple of EPs back in 2019. But this isn't their first time to the rodeo. Oh no. Malignant Altar is made up of members of Oceans of Slumber, Necrofire, Infernal Dominion, and many more. And since their inception, this entity has not been slumbering or resting on their laurels, rather crafting the most fetidly obscene album imaginable. From its 80s horror influences, introducing a barrage of awful that festers in the phantasmal form of rotten riffing and drudging drums, layering themselves...
is a word that's never used enough.
Phantasmal. Yeah. Layering themselves a thick and tarry swamp of instrumental decay.
Whoever wrote this press release deserves a fucking award.
Awesome.
Right now. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The new album was recorded and mixed by the band's drummer, Dober Beverly, and then mastered by Arthur Risk, who I fucking love.
Oh, risky business back at it.
Well, I've not heard his name in a wee while, mind you. I've not spoken about Arthur for a while.
Probably because I cracked the risky business joke last time and he was like that. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Not doing it anymore. Not doing it anymore. It's my surname. Fuck yous.
Yeah, I love the stuff he's done in the past. We did the Jabalba album way back. Loved that. He's done stuff with like Primitive Man, Creeping Death as well. I think, to be honest, I think the band have picked the perfect person to master this album. And actually, the mix on it is really good as well. You tend to find that when it's like a member of the band that's in charge of the recording and mixing, no offence, Kyle, it can sometimes lean in the favour of certain instruments.
Namely the ones that they've played on.
Possibly. But Dober Beverly, I think he's done a pretty good job of keeping the mix fairly balanced. And keeping the kind of overall sound authentic to that style. You get the very kind of reverb-soaked vocals and a very dense kind of guitar tone. He has made sure that the drums sound fucking awesome though. So, fair enough. I would do the same in his shoes, to be fair. But I love not only the playing on this, but that the drum sound is fantastic. That snare sound is boner-inducing, I'm not going to lie.
Right, you need to behave right now.
I can't reel this in. And I love that he's captured all those little cymbals and bell accents. They're really very clear and crisp. Musically, this is so far up my street. So far. So much so. I want to rock down to Malignant Altar Avenue. And then we'll take it higher, gents.
You've been thinking about that for a while. And I know in your head that you visualised this moment where you were going to say it on a recording, and I think you also visualised how disgusted I would be that you would do that.
Not at all.
And so hopefully you did visualise it, because Dave, I am disgusted in you right now.
Good. Mission accomplished. Musically, this is death metal, but it's got a very kind of hefty dose of filthy kind of dissonance through it, and a very much in a kind of Morbid Angel type way, but it's also got some kind of doomier type undertones that gives it a lot of kind of weight and a very kind of bleak tone as well. But it's not to say that this album just kind of plods along at the same speed for 33 minutes, something like that. I think Malignant Altar definitely keep this varied. They will quite happily throw in various kind of moving parts. There's a lot of kind of mid-paced grooves or like passages with blast beats and kind of breakneck riffs, but they don't hold on to those sections for too long. You know, they just give you enough that kind of to give you a kind of feeling of it, like a shift in the track. There are so many great moments on this. As soon as this ended, I put it right back on again, just to relive them all over again. If you love a kind of like a face grimace moment, you know, like this. If you love that kind of moment, that kind of.
I just remembered we do video ones now.
Yeah.
I triggered back a year ago and I was like that. No one's going to be able to see your faces in an audio format. But then I was like, no, it's video.
Yeah.
They will be able to see Dave's face right now.
If you make that face a lot when you're listening to heavy music, then this is your next purchase easily. There was an uncountable amount of moments on this release that I just stopped what I was doing and went, yes, that is what I am talking about. The riffs on this, so punishing. The riff that opens on Ceremonial Decapitator.
I knew you were going to say that because the second half of that song, like, I thought it was a different song. And I was like, this is the same. Like, honestly, like the second half of it sounds, it's just disgusting. It's the most disgusting fucking thing ever.
It's so discordant. It's like, it's got a groove to it. It's got the pinch harmonics. My God, riffs like that, they should be illegal for being too filthy. Too filthy for this album. Too filthy for any album.
Charge you with
illegal.
With
and the riff at the end, the riff at the end of Rite of Krazu, that is living in my head rent free.
But we recently played that on our podcast.
We did. So, we played it on the podcast. Yeah.
So I kind of knew what I was coming into off the back of that.
Yeah.
And I also kind of thought, I see why Dave picked this.
Yes, absolutely. I think though the great thing about this was I didn't feel like I was like just listening to an old Morbid Angel album. Like they definitely add their own spin on things, which I loved. Like they would introduce a little bit more of a kind of technical side, like very kind of like blast riffing against almost kind of like Gorguts-esque type drumming on tracks like Usurping the Pantheon Crown. But they don't like overcook that side of their sound either. You know, like it never gets to a point where you're like, all right, this is becoming too technical. They seem to have a good grasp of when to switch it up with a new tempo or kind of blend in those like doomier tones or even the kind of more kind of blackened tone as well. And that also applies to the vocals. A guy called Wilson Prevett does the vocals, and for the most part, he keeps it fairly kind of guttural. But he's got a bit of a kind of Carl Willits from Bolt Thrower type thing going on at times. But then on tracks like Belial Rebirth, you hear him adding like higher screams. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Hold on a wee second here. You know, it was a wee bit kind of like, almost like Corpse Grinders kind of higher register screams. That's what I was kind of picturing when I heard it. So I was glad to hear that he just like didn't sit in like in his comfort zone the whole time. He was like adding in different levels. For me, like the 33-minute length is a complete home run. Like it's so easy just to fire this on 2 or 3 times on the bounce. Such an enjoyable album. Even like the kind of dark, like creepy interlude that Realms of Exquisite Morbidity. Because the album starts, you get like the kind of spacey, creepy kind of intro on that first track, and then when the interlude track kicks in the middle of the album, it kind of makes sense. You know, it kind of makes sense with the intro of the album. The two of them kind of pair up quite well. And usually, like an interlude on a 6-track album, I'd be like, oh, come on now. But actually, I think it works. And I think it sets up those last 2 tracks perfectly. This is great, mate. I think this is ridiculously tight. Like, they aren't a technical death metal band. Their style has a more kind of flowing kind of feel to it, but it feels just as tight as some of the best tech death we've heard this year. And I think that partly comes down to the drumming. I think Dobor Beverly has a style that feels like both kind of technical and yet very natural. And the drums, for me, just kind of keep the whole thing locked in tight. The kick drums at the start of Usurping the Pantheon Crown are just
rapid,
ridiculous.
Right, like the speed
Absolutely
is just
ridiculous.
like absolutely phenomenal.
yeah. But he keeps it interesting right throughout the album. Like his fills in particular are really inventive. Kept me totally focused on what he was doing for the whole album. The bass is in there as well. You know, it's not overly showy, like with kind of mad licks and stuff, but it's doing exactly what is needed by staying in the pocket. But you can hear it. You get right at the start of Belial Rebirth. It comes in on its own. It's a very kind of filthy tone, and I loved it. I love this. I think we've had a lot of great death metal this year. Some really strong albums from bands like Cannibal Corpse and Archspire and Carcass, Cognitive. And I think this is, for me, another great release. It doesn't sound like any of those albums that I've mentioned, although it's not like totally unique in its sound either. They clearly do have influences. It's not a new sound or anything, but I think it's done exceptionally well, especially the drumming. This album fucks, gents. This album fucks.
It's never not going to make me smile when you say that.
Duncan, what do you think?
There's a lot to like about this. For a death metal album, being the resident death metal naysayer that I am, that's the role I've put myself into on these recordings, and I like it. I like that role, and I'm sticking with it.
Okay.
This one has a kind of, in a lot of respects, it reminded me of very, very late 90s, very early 2000s death metal.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that in a great compliment, because that apparently is the sort of death metal that I am now into. It seems to be 20 years late, but I would like to call that fashionable. So that's right. So like, I think you've touched on so much of kind of why people should actually listen to this. And I don't really think there's much in the way of anything I can add to what you're. I'm super curious from Kyle's perspective, because I know you and he are sometimes like, you gel with death metal, and then other times you're off to the side. But just to double down on things, I found the guitar work really, really interesting. I thought the riffs were brilliant. I thought the solos at times reminded me very much of Slayer. It's kind of Slayery sounding, which I mean makes sense for the influences in the time period, but totally fits with their sound. I was surprised at, like, at first when I looked at the length of the songs, I was like, oh no. But the songs are varied enough that it does keep you interested, but it's not varied for varied's sake either, which I enjoyed. Like, that you can hear the logical progression to the heavier sections that they do. The discordant parts make sense within the structure of the song. So it's not a case of, well, we need to write 6-minute songs and it's a bag of riffs. It's not that way at all. It's, it's thought out that way. I too really enjoyed the drum production. I don't know why I keep looking at Kyle whenever drum production is mentioned. Particularly the triggers. The triggers on the bass drum reminded me of that era. It reminded me a lot of you, actually. Like, your trigger sound used to sound very similar. And I think it works with that. I think the speed this guy plays his bass drum at, specifically on track 2, if they are not triggered, that's just going to sound muddy and not defined for the guitar work that's there. So its purpose is justified, as opposed to trying to make a drum sound the most brutal sound that can possibly be. It still sounded very organic, but at the same time you could tell, well, that makes, I mean, I could see why you would want to do that. There's, unless you've got 2 separate bass drums and and you're set up and you're hit with velocities and all the rest, it kind of needs to be done that way. So it totally worked. The bass tone at the beginning of track 3 is fucking filth. I mean, it's absolutely filth. It's like walking in on your grandmother being spit roasted. That's how filthy it is. Like, my face was fucking disgusted. It was great. It's absolutely great. And that's a brilliant song as well. I'm with you. The title track, which comes in track number 4, which is essentially just an interlude, is perfectly placed. And we reviewed an album recently which had similar amount of songs, and we questioned the placement of and an interlude where it was like that, it doesn't make sense there. You should have at least 1 or 2 tracks further on. It comes too early or it was too late, can't remember. This one's perfect because the final 2 songs collectively are about 12 minutes in length, and the Ceremonial Decapitator is, to me, it's the song of the album. I thought it was fucking jaw-droppingly good. Mostly because I was convinced I'd moved on to another track when that second half kicked in, and the second half might be my favourite death metal thing I've heard this year. I honestly it was fucking horrifically good. I mean, front to back, this is this is the sort of death metal that floats my boat. I like it. I don't like the techie stuff. I occasionally can tolerate it. I appreciate what the guys are doing, but I like the stuff that I can sit down and hear, like guys jamming in a room. Whereas I tend to find that the techie stuff to me is reminiscent of, well, a guy's wrote that in his bedroom, practiced it for hours and hours and hours, and then he's told the rest of the band what to do, and then they've recorded it. But in this one, it feels like a mass collective effort. No surprise to me that you've mentioned that the guys have all been in numerous bands before. It's probably why this is such a strong outing for a debut. And mark my word, this is a strong outing for a death metal debut. I thought this was really good.
Nice. Kyle?
Yeah, it's very surprising for a debut. I know they did a couple of EPs before them, but yeah, considering where they've come from, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, clearly it's not the newest thing in death metal that's ever happened.
No.
But what they're doing is exceptional. It's really, really well done. It's like, and this is the kind of death metal I like as well. Absolutely, it's old school. It's not techie. It's, it's got drums that actually sound like natural drums for the first 3 tracks. And then
God damn
that
it.
snare is good. I'm not gonna lie, it's good.
Love it.
But then when they started the double kicks and I heard the blending of the sample, I was like, oh, it's just too much. But whatever, that's my personal taste. It's just like, oh, it just took it away from me. Clearly, well, I mean, I'm not on the fence about this, but it's nothing new in death metal. But what they do is fantastic. They clearly have lots of very good influences. They're not, influenced by crap bands or anything like that, and they wear them on their sleeve. They're just like, this is who we are. We don't give a fuck. And but no, so I really appreciate that. They clearly just know what they want to do, and they're doing it very, very well. And yeah, the bass on track 3, what is it? Belial Rebirth.
The start, it's just
Oh boy. Being a bassist, I'm like, that's a lot of distortion for bass, but fuck me, does it work?
Yeah.
Sticking with the geriatric comparison, it's like being teabagged with your granddad's testicles. That's how disgusting it is. Like, it kind of sticks to the side of your face and then gets scraped across because they're old and sweaty and wrinkly. You're talking about the face that you do with that. I was doing that. That was that track. That was the opening bars on that track. Fucking amazing.
Yeah. And the last track as well, the riffs on that one were just like, wow, these are good, I mean, yeah, I can't really say much bad about this at all. It's a great death metal album, and it's got that old school vibe. It's not overly produced. It sounds the right amount of shit,
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. It's not super squeaky polished and all this. It sounds great and it works great, and the album is structured. It's not a very long album. Well, I'd say it's an EP. It's not very long. It's got an interlude track with. Honestly, that's my only gripe with it, is that interlude track. It was very. I mean, it was well placed and everything, but they just didn't do much with it. It was just a few sounds sort of layered on top of each other, and like, I kind of wish they did a bit more with it, had a theme going through it or something. It was just sort of a drone all the way through, and I didn't really like get anything out of it other than like it was a break from all the obscene heavy riffery. Fair enough, but I just sort of wish they did a little bit more with that. I mean, they had that creepy intro which did have a theme and it had a melody sort of and a tune, and this interlude just was just for me, it was just sort of a nothing sort of couple of minutes, but that's it. So yeah, other than that, really, really enjoyed it. Duncan's like, fuck you. I'll show you an interlude, you motherfucker.
I liked its minimalist approach, because the track that comes after it is fucking everything, the kitchen sink and a bag of dead puppies. It has that. The track after it has absolutely everything. It's like being the band. That track is like being the band that opens for Slayer. You don't want to be the band that opens for Slayer. Yeah. So that track might as well be minimalist and sparse of sound, because the track that's coming after it.
I see where you're coming from. Just for me, I'm just sat there going, okay, I've heard everything you've got to offer on this track the first third way through it, so I mean, yeah. Why? Yeah. But I mean, that's just me. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Ratings for this new one from Malignant Altar. Boys, this is high. And it's killing me, because we're in November and I'm trying to make a list for the end of the year, and they're fucking with my list.
They're fucking with your list, Dave.
Fucking hell. This is a 4.5 out of 5 for me. I am so close, and there's a possibility this might go higher the more I listen to this, because I do really, really like it. It's not the most original thing I've ever heard, death metal wise. There's been other bands this year who have done, really raised the bar, but this is done so well, so fucking well. So I'm going to go at 4.5. That's what my gut's telling me, 4.5, so I'm going to go with that. Duncan, what are you thinking?
We are sharing a gut. It's a 4.5 from me. I thought this was great. This, I'd like more of this, please, and less of the other stuff. And you know the stuff I'm on about.
Nice. And Kyle?
I'm going to agree with you, 4 out of 5.
So you disagree with us?
4.5 out of 5. Sorry, completely.
I love how he's he's like, because I'm last, that's all people will hear, so I'll just mark us all down to 4.
Yeah.
I said it.
Yeah, exactly. No, my brain is asleep today.
Okay, 4.5.
No, 4.5.
Nice.
Very, very well done. Absolutely.
Nice.
Great job for that band.
The trilogy.
More of this, please, from death metal bands. Less of that other shit. The trilogy, the triangle, the trinity.
You're aware that symbol that you just did there has 4 sides, Dave.
3 points.
3.
3 points.
That has 3. That has 4. That has 3.
Yeah.
That has 4.
One of you are being inducted into the Illuminati tonight, aren't you?
One of us is already there.
Oh, what's that light outside my window?
Burning church, Kyle. It's Norway after all.
Malignant Altar, Realms of Exquisite Morbidity, out on December 10th on Dark Descent Records. I will put a link below to their Bandcamp. No Facebook, because they don't need social media.
Don't need
Check out the Bandcamp, check out the album. It's a banger. Hope you enjoy it. Let us know what you think. Stick some comments in below. Let us know what you think of the track they've released so far. Stutter on there a wee bit.
So excited to get out of this one.
Let us know what you think of the album once it drops. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye!